Hey everyone, and welcome back to another news alert. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and thank you so much for tuning into Boyd News. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more updates like this. And feel free to support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee. Links are in the description below the video. Alright, I've got a breaking news report out of Nato to share with all of you. We're going to talk more about Russia's ongoing hybrid warfare that has been waging against European nations for some time now. We have continued to hear every day that NATO is becoming more active in responding to Russian hybrid threats. Even top NATO officials believe the time has come for a preemptive strike on Russia. Yeah, you heard that right. Take a look at this new story on your screen. It says NATO does not rule out the possibility of a preemptive strike. NATO is considering preemptive action against Russia following a string of hybrid attacks on Europe. NATO Military Committee Chair Admiral Giuseppe Cavo-Dragone has warned. This is a photo of this man right here, and he was actually in an interview over the last 24 hours with the mainstream news outlet Financial Times. That's allegedly when he stated this, that NATO's getting to the point where they're fed up that they actually might carry out preemptive action or a strike directly onto Russia. Now, is this going to be some sort of kinetic or non-kinetic response? We're not really sure, but apparently they're not willing to rule it out, as it looks like NATO is getting fed up with Russia and they're willing to more aggressively react to these hybrid warfare attacks. So for months now, probably even going on a year or longer, we've reported a lot of these attacks, sometimes underwater sea cables in the Baltic Sea being cut. We've heard about military installations receiving damage, sometimes vehicles being destroyed inside of Germany. We've talked about that before. And then most recently, over October and November, just in the last couple months, we've had numerous reports about drone sightings over sensitive military sites across multiple nations in Europe, many of these being NATO nations, and on top of that, international airports being shut down due to these drones. I'll actually have an update for you guys on that here in just a moment. But crazy what's happening. Looks like NATO is getting very serious about this with this chair of the military committee of NATO responding in this way. So let's talk more about this. Let's hop it over to a mainstream news report called the Kiev Independent. This is directly out of Ukraine. It says NATO may get more aggressive in countering Russia's hybrid attacks, top military official says. And this coming out today, December 1st, 2025. Here's a photo of him right here again, Admiral Giuseppe Cavo-Dragone. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But yeah, the chair of the NATO Military Committee. And it says here, NATO is weighing a shift toward a more assertive response to Russia's cyber operations, sabotage, and airspace violations. The alliance's top military official told the Financial Times. Admiral Giuseppe Cavo-Dragone, who chairs NATO's military committee, said the alliance is reassessing how it confronts hybrid threats that have intensified across Europe. We are studying everything on cyber. We are kind of reactive. Being more aggressive or being proactive instead of reactive is something that we are thinking about. Dragone told the Financial Times. He also suggested that a preemptive strike could, in some circumstances, be viewed as defensive action, while noting that such an approach is further away from our normal way of thinking and behavior. So he's kind of claiming that, maybe this is probably going to be our last option that we choose, but also at the same time, not willing to rule it out that, let's say, maybe NATO's going to come under some sort of hybrid threat. They could possibly launch a preemptive strike, maybe using kinetic force to stop Russia from carrying out whatever this event may be. So very crazy. I mean, we have heard many times, for example, like airspace violations where we've got Russian fighter jets going into NATO nations' airspace. And then some reports that, they could possibly be shot down. But for the most part, we haven't seen NATO really respond in that way. So it'd be pretty crazy to see NATO jump the gun all of a sudden and launch some sort of preemptive strike onto Russia if a hybrid threat is present. So it says here, European countries have faced a string of hybrid incidents in recent years, including cyber attacks, suspected Russian-linked sabotage, and repeated cases of underwater infrastructure being damaged in the Baltic Sea. While some NATO members, particularly in Eastern Europe, have pressed for a tougher posture, Dragone said any change requires careful consideration of legal and jurisdictional limits. Being more aggressive compared with the aggressivity of our counterpart could be an option. The issues are legal framework, jurisdictional framework. Who is going to do this, he said. Dragone highlighted NATO's Baltic Sentry mission as an example of successful deterrence. Yeah, something I want to note about that, I actually showed you guys a post from somebody on X a few weeks ago that mentioned that, yeah, all of a sudden, how come we're not seeing these attacks on underwater sea cables anymore ever since NATO announced a Baltic Sentry mission where they're basically deploying more aircraft, more naval assets like ships to monitor the Baltic Sea shipping lanes to make sure more of these underwater sea cables aren't being damaged. If you've noticed, ever since they launched that Baltic Sentry mission, we're not seeing these attacks anymore on these underwater sea cables. Isn't that interesting? The operation deploys Allied ships, aircraft, and naval drones to monitor critical infrastructure in the Baltic Sea following multiple cable cutting incidents in 2023 and 2024. From the beginning of Baltic Sentry, nothing has happened. So this means that this deterrence is working, he told the Financial Times. Just like I mentioned right now, concerns remain. However, after a Finnish court dismissed a case involving the Eagle S, a Russian-linked vessel suspected of damaging several underwater electricity and data cables because the incident occurred in international water. It also says here Finland's foreign minister, Elina Valtonen, acknowledged to the Financial Times that this effectively gives Russian vessels carte blanche in such waters. She added that becoming more assertive is under review, but cautioned that allies shouldn't be historical and should trust existing response frameworks. Dragon said the central challenge for NATO is determining how to prevent future hybrid attacks. How deterrence is achieved through retaliation, through preemptive strike. This is something we have to analyze deeply because there could be in the future even more pressure on this. Okay, so very interesting story coming out today. Yeah, this really shows that NATO is stepping up and they're getting more serious regarding these hybrid warfare attacks onto Europe. Many of these NATO nations seeing incursions of their airspace and these drone airspace violations as well. And speaking of drones, let me show you guys a quick report that actually came out on Saturday. This is going to be talking about Germany with these drone sightings. So I want to show you this here real quick on United 24 Media. This is also out from Ukraine, and it says Germany hit by record wave of drone intrusions over military sites in October. And this came out November 29th, back on Saturday. And it just says right here briefly, Germany recorded an unprecedented number of drone sightings over its military facilities in October 2025, with an increasing share of activity centered around naval installations. According to Reuters, the data was confirmed by Thorsten Ackmann, Vice President of Germany's military intelligence agency, BAMAD. The Bundeswehr has critical infrastructure. At present, the branch most affected by drone surveillance is the Navy, Ackmann told Reuters. Although Ackmann did not disclose exact figures or speculate on the reasons behind the growing focus on naval assets, the development has raised concern amid heightened regional security dynamics. Okay, so as we can see from this report, major amounts of drones being spotted in the skies over Germany. This was going on back in October, and that's around the time that we started to hear a lot of these reports. If you guys remember, it probably went on for about maybe 5 or 6 weeks, where we had at least 2 or 3 days out of the week where there was airspace violations, lots of drones being spotted over naval assets, certain bases in Europe. And then on top of that, we had international airports shutting down all over the place, sometimes for 24 to 48 hours, people's flights having to be diverted. So, at some point, NATO's going to have to respond to this. And they're claiming that not only are we going to respond, potentially with harsh words like they've been coming out with and kind of threatening Russia of shooting down fighter jets, but now they're even thinking about a preemptive strike directly onto Russia. Now, that could technically be kinetic or non-kinetic. So you guys let me know what you think he's talking about here. Do you think he's talking about actually launching a direct strike with some sort of missile, let's say, for example, directly onto Russia? Or do you think he's talking about something else? But clearly, a major warning going out to the Russians, and I believe the Russians were also responding to that today, and they were saying this was not necessary, is what the Kremlin was mentioning. That this was dangerous rhetoric coming out from NATO. So crazy news, guys. Just want to update you on NATO here and give you this story. So let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of that, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care. God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.